Welcome to episode 61 of Paranormal Pendulum, broadcasting to the Paranormal UK network at paukradio.com. Delighted to have on this episode a returning guest. I think this is the third time I've had this very knowledgeable gentleman on. It's Chris Whitehouse. Chris, how are you?
Hey, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm really good.
No
Good to talk to
problem.
you again.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Great to have you on actually the week before Halloween,
Exactly.
because you are a local chap, even though you are technically from the wrong side of the Pennines.
Here we go.
You are you're all right for Yorkshire. But no, we are quite close to close geographically, aren't we? So
Yeah,
it's good that you do an awful lot of investigations in areas that I am very familiar with. So it's always great to have you on and talk about that because I can relate to those areas, which is great. So
Hmm.
let's just say that whoever's listening to this hasn't heard the other two interviews that we did. Can you just briefly tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the whole paranormal investigation sphere?
Yes, in a nutshell, obsessed when I was a child with everyone's favorite Usborne English, Book of Ghosts as a kid, and absolutely annihilated that book, and then begged for ghost books from then on, right up into my 20s when Most Haunted came on UK TV, and I'd watched whatever I could in the slim years of content before that. Eventually, I thought, okay, I love ghosts, but are they real? Probably not. Probably wishful thinking, probably hallucinations, whatever. But I'm not going to know until I go out myself. So I went on an investigation and pretty much thought, okay, there's some questions I've not had answered here. There's more question marks that I'd like to fill in. So I found eager people in the communities around. And basically, the next, been 14 years now since I had my own team. And I've gone from it's probably just in your heads to, oh no, I'm convinced now. I'm absolutely convinced there's something, and I call it a ghost. But if somebody came along and said, oh, it's just group telepathy or something else, I guess you could switch that out. But for now, my viewpoint is, yeah, ghosts are real. And so yeah, we just keep plodding on. I've wrote a book. I've talked about that before. Into the Darkness, Becoming a Ghost Hunter on Amazon, and here we are.
So you've basically gone from skeptic to believer, really due to your investigations over the years.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Which
What was
my
the first one then? What? Sorry to interrupt. What was the first one that you thought, hang on a minute, there's something in this?
we were at Haworth, the Bronte area, which for literature, and there's a place called the Old School Rooms, which you're not allowed to investigate now, but it was where the Bronte family used to, well, the father used to teach there, and it was somewhere we could hire out. It was local, old, quaint, spooky, and I remember we started off with the usual very light table, foldable table that a lot of paranormal teams use for table tipping, and it was going insane, like a very, very eager puppy, I always describe it as. And we were like, wow, the energy in here is crazy. So we looked over at the in-house tables, and they were so thick. They're seated about 8 people, big circular things, and immensely heavy. If me and another person were to try and lift this table across the staged area, we could have pulled our backs. So it was like, this is real heavy.
Yeah.
And we put our fingers on it and said, hey, can you do this then? And it not only twisted, but slid like it was on ice. And I was like, it's physically impossible because I know we would struggle to do that if we were lifting it with our hands underneath, let alone just resting on top. So that was the first time I went away thinking, I've seen physics that's impossible. So how do I make friends with that and rationalize it? That was definitely the first time.
So since then, you've done numerous investigations.
You do things that very fleetingly you get something that's cool. You
Yeah,
get some that are very low, more obviously the ones you don't see on TV, the
yeah,
ones that are like, yeah, we tried. We got a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
yeah.
And then you have some that are amazing. And those are the ones that you always end up telling the same stories about. But that's not to take away from the little ones that for us are really enjoyable when you get a piece of information, when you get 2 seconds of glass movement that you're like, what did that just lift up? Did that really levitate off the board, sort of thing? Um, so yeah, well, you plod on, and eventually I've spoke on this podcast before, you can check out the last ones, about going to York and coming upon what I would have said was nasty spirit. But actually, since our second visit to York, we are now friends with Sam Durst from York. Uh, and yeah, he follows us around and he helped us out on our second visit. Supposedly, there's a very big air quotes around all this story because there's always another explanation. We
Yeah.
could just be crazy for us that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember the first time I spoke to you, you spoke about this spirit that
Yeah.
had sort of attached itself
Mm.
to you, and you said it was pretty nasty.
Yeah. Don't come back here. You're all whores. And it was being very, very, very nasty towards us, threatening.
Yeah,
And 2 years after COVID and all that, 2 or 3 years, we went back because it was the one investigation that we'd left unfinished. The girls who I went with, my team, were like, "I'm not doing a second night. We can't sleep." We ran away effectively,
yeah,
and so we were always like, "How did that happen? Are we out of our depth?" It's the one thing, but of course, because it's the best evidence. You've got to go back. It's like we have got no option. And in the intervening 2 years, that spirit would come through where no matter where we were, and say, "I'm listening to you."
right.
I saw you the other day do this at home, and you're like, wow, I was the only person there. And it'd talk about your kids, and you're like, this thing is watching us. But
Did that not freak you
eventually
out? Did that not freak you out?
it does. To be honest, I'm meant to be the one who's like, don't worry. But really, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm up against.
Yeah,
But we just keep going because until someone gets hurt, you've only got threats.
yeah, yeah,
And as we proved at the time, he can say what he wants to us through the board, but as soon as you take your fingers off the glass, he's powerless. It's like, go on then, do something now. Show your power now. It's not until we allow him to communicate with us. Um, so yes, when I was getting weekly updates off the team saying, I'm sure Sam's just been in my house. Next time we get together, we'll have to ask him, as you guys don't know what has happened. And yeah, I just see as when we get to the Ouija board, I just see my teammates' faces go ashen as some garbled response through the Ouija board talks about shoes and heels or whatever, and yet one of them is like, I know exactly what he's saying because my daughter, blah 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 blah,
mm.
and it meant something to them. And she's like, and you know what? I felt like I was being watched, and so yeah, people were freaking out in between. So it's a very hyped up. Should we or shouldn't we go back? Ultimately, we did, and I went in very respectfully, and we were there for 2 nights. And I said, "Look, Sam, we mean you no harm. I certainly don't need you any disrespect. You've been the best spirit I've ever come across, and we got some incredible activity in that house from." A girl called Nina coming through talking about red shoes as it happens, which I did end the last podcast I spoke to you
Yeah, yeah,
talking about. So, and then we heard Sam seemingly walk up steps in a wall where there were no steps because it was going to the outside. And along the course of those 2 nights, we'd supposedly picked up something negative when we were experimenting, and Sam supposedly helped us out and cleansed them of these things in a very strange Estes method, where one of us was segregated and the others were around a table. And I don't. It's still baffling to watch back, But if you wanted to take it as read, then Sam and another spirit helper we have from Ilkley fought off these two negative energies and then made myself and Lucy, who were the culprits of starting this thing, go to York Minster, put our hands on it, basically touch sacred ground, and promise not to meddle in such an irresponsible way again. So that was a huge lesson for us, if you take it as read, for what happened. And now I feel not scared, but I feel protected when I do spiritual work. Like, and I can picture I've got some people to come round and stop the bullies, Yeah. However, I don't ask for scratching anymore. I don't say slap me around the face, because that's going to be the best evidence I get. I liken it to not coming into your house and having the first thing I say to you be, "Oh, just punch me in the face." You'd be like, "No, that's weird. That's not the right thing to do when you come into someone's place." No. So, I don't ask for nasty stuff.
So, can you have conversations with?
Well, through a Ouija board. There's no mediums amongst us. Right. So, but the evidence that is verifiable can be staggering, but there's a range. The range goes from, yes, the glass is moving over letters, but it's not spelling anything that we know. And it goes right through to a staggering amount of information can come through, where I'm talking about what happens in the afterlife and beings of pure light, and it's telling us about its love is the greatest power, and you're overwhelmed with it.
So he knows that he's dead.
Sam does, yeah. Sam refuses to go over because he's got great power in the house where he is. He used to be a moneylender on Stonegate. Oh. We did some research while we were there, but he told us this. He told us his surname, and he seems to at least trust us or like us enough to be around. But yeah, I mean, other spirits, you just get lucky sometimes. You get lucky.
Does another family or another person live in that house now that he's still?
No, it's an Airbnb.
Right. I do remember you mentioning that.
Yeah. Yes, and it's kind of hokey because they've sort of, isn't this, what's it called, haunted chambers, and it's like, come stay in this spooky place with a magnetic Ouija board, and it's really like a misshapen building anyway, so it gives you that bit of a natural freak out.
Yeah.
So they play up to it, and then you get comments in the visitors book sort of saying, there's nothing here, we slept and nothing happened, whereas you get other people like, this place, I'm not staying here, it's well creepy. But most of them...
Does that not annoy him that there are different people?
It does. That's what was annoying me. It gives him, not only does it give him the energy source to keep going strong, he's like, this is my house. What are you doing? And we went and actually moved a spirit on, and that was the one that his kind of love, illegal love, if you like, the nanny. And that's why he went into immediate hatred of us, because she said to us, look, there's a bad spirit going to come soon and he won't like you, watch out for him. And so he was this mystery character for an evening while we talked to the lovely, I've just blanked on the name, but let's say Elizabeth, because that's such a typical ghostly name, so we cleansed her, passed her over to the other side, supposedly, and he came and we're like, where's she gone? What have you done with her? And chased us down. Where is she for ages? But yeah, like I say, hopefully things are much better now. We've not done a load of investigating this year. You always start off the year with great plans, but I did go investigating with Are You Haunted off of YouTube and Pluto TV. So I met them. I know them now. That was great. Phil Wyman, I don't know if you've heard of him. He used to be on Most Haunted back in the 2002 when he did Scream Team. But yeah, him and his wife set up. His wife and he set up a team, and they've gone to Series 5 coming up soon. But yeah, I've made some great contacts this year.
So where did you investigate with them?
Investigate is a bit of a thin word, but we did an investigation with a public event, and if you've ever done a big public event, it's investigation is not really what you class it as. Walking around in the dark while you try and avoid other people shouting is more what it was. But where was that? Leeds Thackeray Museum, Medical Museum, a really cool building. But when you investigate, you want 10 people, absolute maximum. And if you can help it, you want to split those into two teams of 5. You don't want 40 people, some are really eager that they've never done it before. And, it just doesn't work.
No.
So as they were all running around like headless chickens, me and the TV team, I'd sit and have a catch up and just talk, investigator to investigator. Oh, what have you done? What did you think? What's your best evidence? So that was really nice. And then I got to interview them on one of my channels. So yeah, and I just went to Jane from the team invited me to go to Parameet 2024 up north this just weekend gone. So we went up to Pontefract where the owner of 30 East Drive, the big Pontefract address, was talking. I saw Richard Felix give a talk, So yeah, it was really good. And so I made some good contacts there as well. So it's been more of a research year for me,
Been doing lots of schmoozing.
Yeah, sort of hotting up for next year, thinking, how am I going to attack next year?
So you have done. I mean, I asked you before we came on to record about a few places. You gave me a list, so I'm going to go through the list with you now.
All right.
Your most recent one's Corn Town Hall. Now, I went on your YouTube channel, which is brilliant, by the way.
Thank you.
I watched the footage that you put out of that, and I have to say I was blown away by it because it was so well done, so professionally done, and it's so engaging as well. I really enjoy watching the stuff on there. So, what's the YouTube channel called? First, before we go any further,
simply Whitehouse, one word, investigations.
Okay.
Whitehouse investigations, yeah.
So yeah, definitely worth a look. If anybody listening hasn't had a look at that, because it is a really good YouTube channel. And we were just saying before we started recording, there's a lot of competition out there at the minute for both YouTube channels and podcasts, and that is one of the better YouTube channels. I'll be quite honest with you. I was really blown away by that. So what happened? So Corn Town Hall. Before you tell me, just explain what Corn. It's our northern accent. It's actually spelled Colne, isn't it? And it's a small town, a very old sort of mill town, I suppose, really. On the Lancashire side of the Lancashire-Yorkshire border. It's quite close to the town of Burnley, my least favourite football club. Yes, that's where Corn is. Tell me about your investigation into Corn Town Hall.
Well, again, Jane from Are You Haunted had said, Chris, why don't you try getting in there? We've done an episode there. And I was, basically saying, because, we don't spend big money, really. She's like, it's quite cheap. So we went there and were shown around and set about business as usual. Now, there's a beautiful room. It's still used and it's what do you call it? It's about like does wedding ceremonies, but it also is like town hall meetings and it's a courtroom. That's the word I'm looking for. Really high ceilings with glass in the roofs where it's stained glass windows and the light comes through. And so you've got really very wood paneled walls and huge portraits of important, imposing people painted on the walls. So immediately you've got a vibe, and that's like the central room. But there's many an office, more offices than you kind of anticipate coming off from this room, where again you can do weddings, you can small little sign the registered books and whatever. So we had a look round, we got the tour, we went down into the cellar, and then we reconvened, and it was like, right, guys, we have only got X amount of time. What do we think we're going to do? Well, let's start in the heart of the beast. Let's start right on the second floor in the courtroom, the huge, imposing room. So we set up 3 or 4 cameras, and we dotted electrical equipment around, but we're really focusing on the Ouija board. And so now we set up various pieces of equipment that, generally speaking, won't go off. Some are 50-50. Some you just set up because you've bought it and they never go off. So when I opened up the Ouija board, straight away, a team member's daughter was with us, and she says, I think she either prodded or she had her hair pulled. And she was like, some of the things just touched me. And I was like, all right, cool. That's what we want. That's what we're here for. And then someone on the opposite side of the table is like, I've just been prodded in the back, you know. And then you get far down the end of the courtroom is a scrying mirror, basically a black reflective surface. But it also has, I want to say it's got a REM pod built into it. It's something that can be electrically activated, never goes off. But that started to give it shrill. And I mean, seconds after, the one on the opposite side of the room, the north and south, you know, it went off as well. And these are two of the equipments that just don't go off. So it was almost like a new sound for us. I was like, wait, what's going on? We're like, hey, that's going off. That never goes off. So it was almost like something had prodded us and then walked from one end of the room to the other, just so eager to talk. So yeah, we have spirits straight away, and I do kind of ask them in my protection that the brightest and most energized form the queue and they go first. You know, that's kind of the general good way if there's more than one spirit there. So yeah, that was the big thing for me, that I was really impressed that we had some new electrical things to go off. So we'd get talking to these spirits and obviously trying to make them do things again and thanking them for what they've done. And I don't remember the exact details, which is exactly why we make a YouTube video, so I don't have to remember. You know, and it's like, okay, we're done up here. Let's go somewhere else. Where should we go? Running out of time. Let's hit the basement. You go in the basement. We attempted to do the largest distanced Estes method, where three of us were asking questions out into the ether, you know, into the room. And hopefully when we lined up the audio from two cameras, the second camera was way down the other end with one person listening to a word bank. But nonetheless, it's just an experiment to see whether I say, give us a number, come on, give us a number, and whether when the audio and video synced up, that the opposite person close enough gives a number or something. And so many questions were asked, and basically there was very few moments that lined up. So you could argue coincidence, but I was hoping that was going to be the big, oh, this will prove it, but it didn't quite work. But we gave it our best shot. We found a great new location, and trying to get booked in again is just crazy. It's like, oh, we booked in for 6 months. 2 other teams do it, and rightfully so, they'll keep booking it. So really, it was just dipping our toe in the water. But the spirits that we spoke to were lovely and really wanted to talk. And you can see it in the video, like I say. And yeah, there's just so much more to do there. And it had the evidence, what was supposedly catalogued was footsteps, walking above. If you're they do a lot of work in the cellar for the council, yeah. And that's on the main floor. Feet would be heard walking around, but there was a huge clock tower on the top, which struck at very regular intervals. I would say every quarter of an hour, and a very thunk of the mechanisms. But I'm sort of thinking, yeah, skeptically you would say, well, I know what that is straight away. That's not walking, that's thumping of not heavy boots, but clock.
Yeah.
But you think, look, I learned that after being there for 2 hours. So surely the people who work there are well aware what the clock tower thumping is and aren't going to mistake the two, you know. So yeah, just now I guess now we go back and we've got that one data point. We now see if we talk to the same spirits or what different things happen. it's just a matter of visiting a place semi-regular when we can and correlating what we find.
Is there any other documented um, instances from other people or anything in sort of local history?
I haven't
About the
even
place?
looked because we done pre-research and quite lazy, I suppose, and a bit selfishly. Once we've done that night, we're like, well, that's what we got, and we go away. But I know, as I say, it was an episode on TV, and I had watched that, but we find that we kind of, it's not necessarily spirits on that spot, it's other spirits that see us turn it on and want to come and talk to us. Now, a lot of them are close to us, saying we know you, so it doesn't really matter who haunts the place. We're talking to like moths to a flame wherever we go. So I wouldn't, there was one spirit I remember was trying to point at a portrait that was him. Um, and it did say in this room, but yeah, it wasn't in this room. It was just through the wall. Eventually, we found a name that checked out on a big picture, but it wasn't in that room. But it was in that correct direction that he pointed on the Ouija board. So I don't know.
Can you remember the name?
Nope, not a chance.
Okay.
No. Um, but he only gave a first name anyway. I remember that. So you have to marry up. Let's say it's Robert. It could have been Robert. So let's say it's Robert, and if you find a picture then of Robert, your suspicions are, look what we've just found, exciting. But there was a lot of portraits in that place. Let's say there were 20, and coincidence perhaps would also give the same result, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You make it fit. So unfortunately, the evidence on the Ouija board that night was kind of unprovable. But yeah, we don't really generally race to look it up afterwards either. I know some of the team do, but that's probably where I let myself down, because I have some reports where we have looked it up and been like, my God, that's incredible, as we will get to.
Yeah. No. Give me some examples of those.
When we went to Black Dyke Mill in Queensbury, we got a spirit saying, we were like, how did you die? It gave a full name firstly, which is in the video and in the newspaper article. And I swear to everyone listening, we had no preconceived knowledge of this, because our response was, how did you die? Oh, you fell down a hole. And look, I was just happy that it wasn't gobbledygook, that it was just actually spelling English out. That was like, okay, fell down a hole, okay. But thinking, oh God, when's this spirit gonna go? It's talking rubbish. But yeah, gave us a full name, fine. Fell down the hole, okay. How old were you? Well, 56, okay. And so you get this information, and well, what were you doing, or what was your, did you have family? How did you feel about dying? And are you happy now? You've got out of your body. Well, no, my family. I feel so sorry for the people I left behind. Um, Now, obviously, we go on with our evening. We move locations a little bit. We try something new. We try leave a teammate to just almost try mediumship. Try to sit in the dark with a blindfold on and maybe headphones on. Oh, that's right, headphones, listening to waves crashing to try and just clear a head. And I said, Jill, just keep speaking out whatever you picture. You won't hear us asking questions. We're going to leave the room out of your earshot, certainly with your headphones and waves in your ears. And so I'm just asking out to the building, describe if there's a spirit there, describe where you lived. And then she sort of starts talking about where she lived in this house and what the roof looked like. And we're looking at each other like, what is she? It's like we're talking to her, but we're not, So you have those moments where you might have a minute where you seem to be communicating and then it's lost again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try things like that and think, oh, we'll try that again. That was interesting. All right, so we all go home that night, and I get a message, I think in the morning, saying, you're never going to believe this. That the name was a person who died in the month they said, in the year they said, was that age fell down a hole in the road, and they were on the way home drunk from the pub, and the cones weren't there, and there was a lot of trouble afterwards because somebody had, hurt themselves fatally. And who he left behind and who he was, and it was like I was now looking at the face of the guy I'd been talking to the night before, and he suddenly became very real. And we were all like, he said he fell down a hole. I kind of stopped listening at that point and didn't just played it out because we were giving up as night to go something. So you get what you get. But that was a cold shiver time, and there's only about 3 or 4 times I've had that, but so exciting. And I did decide to put the news clipping in the video, and just show it off, because I've had times before where there's been a fatality like in the last week, and the person's come through and said exactly what happened, who did it, that it was an accident. But this was and what I'm thinking of was a particularly school kid, and I was like, I just can't put that in the video. It's absolutely incredible, spot on, but I can't use it. So I made the decision on that occasion to use it. But that wasn't the first time we've had things like that, and that can keep you going for 5 years. Try to chase that again. Of all the nights that nothing much happens, you shrug and think, well, we tried.
Yeah.
We went to sorry, we went to I'm trying to think now. We went back to Ilkley Cemetery, hoping to meet a spirit friend of ours who had always been really helpful, and be led to her grave, because when we first met Ruth had tried, by way of me having a meter in one hand and meter in the other hand, it only flashed one. Which way is your grave? Oh, this way. Okay. And I walked on a bit. Which way now? And then eventually we lost that link, and it troubled me for like 5 years or so. We went back hoping to meet Ruth, our friend. And yet every time we opened a board, it was like, no, we're not doing this. Go away. It was like we were all busy in a meeting, and they were like, we're not doing this tonight. No. So, well, we'll move on. We'll move over here then. Right, spirits. And no, we're not doing it. And we were like, oh, okay, I guess this has been a bit disappointing. But you're sort of like, well, at least you're not pushing the glass. You're not going to throw yourself out.
No.
So I couldn't even make a video out of that. It would just shut us down.
Why
So
do you think that was?
I have no idea. What can I say? That one data point that you've got to remember, the night when they said, no, we're not doing this tonight. And I don't know. I would, when next time I get a communicative board, I will say, do you know what all that was about? Well, what do you think that was about? Next time I get talking to Ruth, I'll say, we came to see you. What? And she'll probably tell us. So, yeah.
Again, did she know that she was dead?
Yeah, she knows, absolutely. No question. Yeah. Her and her husband used to go ballroom dancing there, and one of her signature moves, so we know that it's really her, is she does this rotating like a ballroom dancer, spinning gracefully around the board, and you just got to feel that, okay, it's Ruth, that
Yeah.
the spirits we know will say, do your thing, do your signature thing, or say your keywords, and you sort of like, yeah, that's them.
And do they sort of give you any indication of where they are?
Well, I've said, is there a sun? They say no. Is there a light? Yes, it's sunny, but it's bright, but there's no actual determining point of illumination. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And they were saying there is work to be done, which I found quite gloomy. It's like, well, got to go over there and do work. It's like, it's optional. It's optional work, but whether you've probably lost memory of my conversations, they all tell me that there's 8 times you come back on Earth, you have 8 lives over here, and then it's like getting, I suppose it's like getting your karate belts, and you level up with experiences, and you choose to come back down to Earth when you want to have another test. It's like, it's like this is the afterlife, and the real life is when you're dead. When that's the reality. It's like you choose to come into this purgatory, you choose to come to school and possibly have a grim, but you hope to gain some hardening to yourself, some new thing you've never experienced, and you level up. That's the hope. And if when you level up enough, you become a being of pure light, which then you can choose to watch over humans. Now that takes you right down the guardian angel sort of thing. You don't have to watch over your family, but obviously that's an option. But yeah, that's what they tell us, and it's lovely over there. I mean, all illness has gone because there's no physical form to have ailments, but they do miss and long for their family, all their families on the different lives. It's so upsetting to think I left them behind, but ultimately they understand that's just the aim of it. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm wondering now what number I'm on.
Well, I keep inviting you to come, and then we could find out, because they do. I know I'm on 6 out of 8, and you start to think, well, maybe that's why I'm like this. Maybe it's all stains from the last lives. I have no memory of it, but I do have a miserableness inbuilt where I think, what am I miserable for? And I sort of think, it's not this life, is it? It's the last one.
It's because you're from Yorkshire. No,
Mm.
it's interesting.
Hey, it's helped me out. Whether it's nonsense or not, it's really knocked away any fear of death, and it's changed me for the better. My journey,
Right.
I'm not a religious person. Death and the afterlife is my religion. Like, okay, so this is just school. It's fine. Bad things happen so that you can overcome them, and you've grown.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I'd like to find out more about it.
Yeah, yeah. And the weird thing is, when you get a really good communicator, you suddenly mind goes blank, and you're like, "Oh my God, here's the opportunity!" But you keep asking the same questions, and you're like, "I need to write something down next time," and think I must ask them X, Y, Z. When you go down the God route, oh God, I've got as far as now. I want to say Hinduism is the closest religion because it's about the reincarnations. Um, and they mentioned a female god, but she wasn't the god. She was like not a second in command, but some sort of governmental level down. It was like this person is in control of XYZ. So there's some sort of a system. There's some sort of a hierarchy of energy. I'm not saying you should even picture people. Maybe that's just so that we can understand it. Um, I don't know. I'm none the wiser, but I like and take heart in the fact that no matter where I go, if I get a communicator, I can ask the same questions, and they all go, "Yep, you heard right. That's how it operates." Okay, what level are you? And it's between 1 and 8, and I'm like, all right, where were you before? And they'll tell you of other lives. They even told my sister, what she'd done before because she was fascinated by this. Oh, you used to be called Edna da da da. Your husband was Derek and you lived in Australia. And she's like, that's so weird. And I suddenly had a feeling of taking a holiday to Australia. And you don't know whether it's some sort of psychological calling that you've got to these things. And, whether you go as far as saying deja vu is memory that you've walked these streets before. But yeah, it's just interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of these coincidental things that you knock it down to coincidence. After 14 years, I cannot chalk it up to coincidence anymore. It's like even the hardest skeptic has got to say, like the guy falling down a hole is 56 and that's his real name and that's when he did it, just like he said. You think, how can that be all coincident? Oh well, you must have read it in a paper. I didn't. I don't read papers. There's absolutely no way that I saw that anywhere else. And to see everyone else's faces go, what's going on? You're like, yeah, none of us did either.
So was it quite a recent death that then, or was it
Yeah, I think it was. If I said 2017 off the top of my head, it was that recent. When people say, well, why don't we ever get in contact with anyone who's not from Victorian times? It's like, mate, get out there, try it. You do. People who have just died. Literally, we got in contact with someone who had died on that night that we were investigating because one of our teammates was a nurse and they have dying people, obviously. And she realized she was talking to a patient of hers. This was her off night. And the guy was like, yeah, I'm dead now. And so our friend's like, well, tell me who's working then, because I'll be finding out tomorrow. And listed out these people. Of course, we just sit back and we're like, I don't know. Only one person knows whether this is factual or not. And she's like, well, they're not meant to be working. Yeah, I just saw you doubt, I doubt it's right because Sheila's not meant to be working tonight. And then next thing you know, you get a message on the group. She was, she wasn't meant to be, but she was. And you say, what colour bed sheets did you die on, and to give you the right sheets? And you're like, well, that's something else to chalk up to. That's interesting. That's worth remembering, or is it a coincidence? If you want to be skeptical.
Do you not worry that perhaps a family member could get in contact with you about something that you perhaps put on the YouTube channel, something like that?
No, I don't, because we don't get as many views. If I was much bigger,
That's
I
a
would
good
then apologize. But
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like, yeah.
No, I just wonder whether somebody might get a bit upset
Look, it would take me
about
5 seconds to private and say sorry.
yeah,
Fine, no problem. It's more that I can watch it. It's more that the team can go, hey, do you remember that? Let's watch that again. It's kind of it. As I say, you asked me what happened then, and I'm like, well, I just gotta watch it, and that's what happened then. My memory's only so good when you get 3 names a night, 5 names a night. As good as it was, that my mind, I've got other things going on, so I don't remember.
So yeah, I mean, I'd love to find out more about this because the whole reincarnation thing and the reason behind it. I mean, I do often wonder whether when you're dreaming, I mean, I know we all have very vivid dreams, but you have to wonder sometimes whether when you're dreaming, you are actually somewhere else and it is actually a physical place. And you are experiencing it through dreams. I mean, who's to say that the dreams you have aren't your real life, and what we're doing now is actually a dream that we think is our real life.
Yeah, and in a real world now where the multiverse is a strong contender for what is reality, and that quantum mechanics shows that every single option that's possible to outcome to happen happens at once, and the us, that is we, end up on just seeing that one timeline, then it's not far-fetched to say his dream's reality. And do we live in a sim oh my god, what's the word? Like the Matrix, like it's not
Like
real.
simulation.
That's the word, simulation. Yeah. Yeah. Do we live in a simulation? Just like a video game that only renders in at the bits you're looking at. Is my upstairs now not in existence because I'm not looking at it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then you only have your piece rendered in, because that would make the computer power of the universe needed to be a lot smaller, because we only all just look at our little bits. So it doesn't all have to be in existence when we're not, all the time.
When we're not there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's there. It's like the computing power is so massive and clever that it would work. But then you can say anything, can't you? Literally, a banana controls us. Well, why not? It's as feasible as everything else.
Yeah.
And will we ever know? Could we ever teach an ant what Mozart is? No. So
probably not.
And when we think about these things, don't you think that we're only limited by what our brains can come up with? Just like if an ant tried to explain what we were doing when we were lumbering over them, they wouldn't have the words to describe what we were doing.
No.
So we can ponder, we can enjoy what we experience, but we're never going to know. Even when I've asked spirits to explain why is there so many planets and space and stuff, they're like, don't know. It's all fair enough.
Yeah.
Did
you?
Yeah.
You should ask them whether we are the only intelligent life in the universe and see what they come back with.
Yeah, they might say intelligent.
No, I say ask well, yeah. Ask Dr. Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Cinemas are always spooky, aren't they?
They are
very atmospheric. Skipton and Keithley. Let's finish on those because they sound really interesting.
Well, the thing with cinemas is that again they've got a wave of people bringing their living energy and emotion. That the spirits have told us that that's how they feed, especially sadness. Sadness is a much better energy to get energy from than happiness, but happiness is a good energy too. So if you've got people giving the building and the atmosphere, constant energy, then the spirits love a cinema and a theatre. So yeah, we've got two cinemas we go to that is owned by the same guy. Um, Old, kept in their old condition to be quaint, to be unique, and yeah, just the layers like onion layers of times from projectionists to old cigarette sellers or theatre actresses, and so it's like fishing, though. I always describe it as fishing. You can go to a lake full of fish and catch absolutely nothing. Go on the same lake the next night and catch five. So it's you never know what you're going to get, but you can just feel that there should be a ghost. You're like, if there should be, if there's going to be a ghost, it's this kind of a place in the back alleys of the cinema where nobody goes, the undecorated areas
Yeah.
left from when it was originally something else. Yeah, so when we go there, it's just for that again. Are we going to contact the spirits of the cigarette seller who's been seen, or on the Ouija board, though, because the people who work there will say, well, we never see anything. And obviously, we don't do a Ouija board to talk to them, but they'll say somebody will do like change something that shouldn't be changed. We found this over here. Why is it moved? CDs get skipped as you try to listen to a song. And then when you get on the Ouija board, it's like, yeah, they don't like that song. They're telling us that, that they hate that band, you know. So yeah, you sort of get to know their characters from all different elements, from what the staff say. But you can have dead nights, and again, it might just be some information through the board that cross references with another spirit that you talk to, and that's the wondrous sort of web of it all. That you might think you see something at home, and so you can go to a cinema and say, are you aware that something's in my house? And they almost go quiet for a minute as if to go and check and go, yeah, it's Fred so and so. He's just wandered in from the neighbors. And you're like, whoa, that's amazing. So it's not always about the spirits in that building, but sometimes it is. That's the difference between a new location where you don't know what you're going to get, you don't know who you're going to talk to, and going to a place where they get comfortable with you. Who has been around this table here before, and they'll take the glass to each person who has been and not the person who hasn't. But I don't know, it's so fascinating that they can go to your house and tell you what house number you live in, or what color your wallpaper is. And I know we investigate together, but I've not got a clue what numbered house my friends around the team live at, what's in their house. So that's sort of evidence of itself. And you get sidetracked and you're asking all these things. Then you come out and you think, well, what have I actually learned about that location tonight? Not a lot. Just that whatever that was who came through has been to my house.
Yeah.
Or,
So that's interesting, isn't it? So they're not limited to a particular space.
No, not at all. Which I thought they were.
Well, yeah, most people think that a spirit or a ghost is sort of located in a particular area.
Yeah.
But it would seem that they're not. They can move around, and they can actually move around in a way through our dimension that we wouldn't be able to do so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they have no time's not the same for them, they say.
Right.
And you think about it, they're outside of time. Time is our construct in the physical. They don't have that. It's like the physics spooky action at a distance with two quantum charged particles that can be other solar systems away from each other and instantaneously change rotation if you change one. So it's like this isn't really far-fetched. It's the science that we're learning. So if that is possible, then energy definitely can do that. So yeah, traveling anywhere they want is fine, unless they think for some reason, such as religion, that they are persecuted to stay locked in this place. But it's totally of their own head space that they've self, imprisoned themselves there. And you explain to them, well, you are dead and you can move, and your kids are already dead. It's not, you're thinking, I can't go to the spirit world because my kids haven't been christened. It's like, mate, they're dead. You're dead. They're over there waiting for you. So that's our bread and butter, really, having conversations like that with spirit.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's been great to talk to you again, Chris. Every time I speak to you, it just gets me thinking more and more. I I am really interested in the multi lives thing that you talked about. That's definitely got me thinking. Just remind me again where people can find you. So your YouTube channel is Whitehouse Investigations.
And it's the same thing for Facebook, and those are the two places that we hang out really nowadays.
Yeah.
Not spreading ourselves extra thin just on purpose. It's like, no, we do what we do. If you're interested, come and chat.
Have you got anything lined up in the short term?
Yeah, I now have a gallery and a mill over in Pudsey, which is towards Leeds, and we hope to investigate there from this point. And I will be at probably Parameet, which is a convention next year, and who knows? I want to do Pendle Hill. I want to do. There's a certain wood that one of the teams found around Pendle Hill. I don't know the exact area. It's one that we keep wanting to tick off. So I'm going to start booking things in a bit more solidly. But we can always go back to ones we've done. But I really want to do a clean page, and like Colne. Yeah, I would go back to that Colne one. But and also there's a municipal building there that does ghost hunts. So I'm really following leads. And if it's not a stupid money, then I'll go back. And at the Parameet this year, I heard there's a place in Hinckley, which is down near Birmingham, and it's a really cool building. Okay, they have actually done each room up into, one's a mirror room, one's a seance room, one's a doll room, and you're like, it's leaning into it a bit, but I can ignore all that and just do what we do. And it's an affordable price, but meant to be a really big location, which I would like to have to ourselves.
Cool.
So yeah, just pushing, just trying new things.
Well, I'll have to have you on again when you've done more investigations, and let's catch up and see what you find out in the future going forward. It's been a pleasure to speak to you again, Chris. It always is. You are one of my favourite guests.
Thanks, Greg.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And it's great. Yeah, been great to talk to you, and hopefully we will catch up again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.